Let's build a arch garden trellis together. The first thing you're going to need to do is go to Tractor Supply, which is where you're going to get most of the materials. You're going to need 3 cattle panels. Well, you can use 1 cattle panel if you're trying to just build one archway, but I wanted it to be a little longer, so I got 3 cattle panels. They do have hog panels and I believe sheep panels, but these are cattle panels. The squares in cattle panels are bigger and wider. Hog panels will work also, but I wanted a specific cattle panel. I got 3 of those and I have 6 T-posts. You can get more T-posts, but I'm on a budget and I wanted to save as much money as possible, so I used a T-post on each side of each cattle panel. So 2 T-posts for each cattle panel. You can put, how some people do it is they basically put 4 T-posts on 1 cattle panel. They put 1 on each end basically, but instead I put mine in the middle and I zip tied them. When you go pick up your cattle panel, make sure you have a vehicle that could accommodate them. So you would need like a truck with a bed, so a pickup truck or a larger truck where you can roll it up. We have a Dodge Durango and these cattle panels will not and did not fit in this, so what I did was rent a U-Haul truck. I already needed to move bigger items that day, so it worked out. So the rental was about probably $30 total, and the cattle panel, T-post, and zip ties was around $100 give or take. I believe each cattle panel was close to $30. No, I'm sorry, it was like $22 or something, and then a T-post I believe were like $5 or $6. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it was pretty inexpensive to build 3 arched trellises, and I spent about probably $100 give or take. With these T-posts, they are 6-foot T-posts. They have 4-foot and 5-foot. Those could work also. I wanted 6-foot. I would advise you to call the Tractor Supply. They normally have the cattle panels and hog panels and everything, but the T-posts, they may not have them. So call them ahead of time and ask, do they have the 6-foot T-posts, and see if they have the amount that you need. You can also find the T-posts on Facebook Marketplace. I did see some of them had rust and things on it, but they were just a little too far for me, and being that I needed to go to Tractor Supply, it was just worth getting them from Tractor Supply versus driving an hour plus for the T-post. You could probably also find the cattle panel and stuff on there, but I wanted to go like this. If you want, you can also use these. Instead of building an arched trellis, you could use these to build a trellis, but you would just lay these horizontally instead of standing them up and arching them over. You would just lay them basically straight across horizontally, whatever you want to grow up it. But with that method, you won't have as tall of a trellis, so you're gonna have to figure out or trim the leaves so they don't go too far up. But I wanted an archway, and basically wanted it to climb as high as it possibly can. I didn't want to stunt or limit my plants. Here you can see you want to get the trellis, the T-posts, when you get them, they have like these little, what are they called? Like stakes at the bottom of them. We hit them down, she hit them down in the ground until basically that entire stake was covered in the ground for stability. You can use hammers. She has a metal hammer that she's using. You can use, they have what's called T-post drivers, and it's basically like a thing that you put on top of the T-post and you just like force it down. But we didn't want to spend more money, and we don't plan on installing more T-posts, so we used what we had here. And with zip ties, we got the regular zip ties off of Amazon, the ones that's at Home Depot too, like the more affordable ones. Let me tell you something. You need to get heavy duty zip ties. We did use these for the time being, and she put these in place. This right here, that's a plant that broke. I put this here so that you can be mindful of where you are putting the trellis. So if you have plants already existing, find a way to move them or something, because the trellis is going to move until it is secure, and you may break a plant like we did with my lily. But back to the zip ties. The zip ties, we used the thinner ones to hold it in place. But when we woke up not the next day, a few days later after a storm, some of them had popped, and that is what's securing the actual cattle panel to the T-post. So we went and got some heavy duty zip ties, and they are longer, right? They were I think maybe 16 inches or something. They were pretty long, but we cut them, but we got the thicker ones. That way we didn't need to use as many of them, and they were stronger and they secured it better. Yes, we left the smaller, thinner zip ties on there, but we wanted to secure it with the thicker zip ties. You basically are driving each T-post in the middle of where you will want the cattle panel to stand. And as you get the T-post there, you're going to get the cattle panel and align it in the middle. I counted basically how many holes was on each side, and I put it in the middle, and then we arched it. These things are huge. I'm glad my wife helps me build my garden dreams. But you're going to take it and you're going to align it with that T-post. We use the measuring tape to measure from one T-post to another to make sure that it was the correct distance. And after that, that's when we secure one side with a zip tie and then the other side with another zip tie to make sure that it is where we wanted it before we basically made it a permanent arch. And then after that, you're going to arch it over. You're going to zip tie those little squares to the T-post, and that's how you create this archway. It was pretty simple. It did take probably maybe an hour to do it, and she did it mainly by herself. I helped at the beginning once I told her where I wanted it, but she did it by herself. Two people could have went faster, but I needed to do some other things in the garden. But you see, I have the T-post directly in the middle, and I used the zip ties to put them together at the top, but also to zip tie the T-post to the cattle panel. You can see the little black zip ties we did. These are not the thick ones. These are the little thinner ones that we went and replaced, but we kept them on there for extra support. And we also zip tied the end of the cattle panels together at the top, and we create this arched trellis with zip ties, T-posts, and cattle panels for less than $100.